G'day YouTubers, Pirate Pete here, coming to you from a slightly cloudy Sydney, here to talk again about your favourite topic and mine, gold and silver. In today's video, I wanted to ask, should I be buying myself gold or should I be buying silver? Now I couldn't really explore this question without asking myself, what's a fair price to pay for gold versus a fair price to pay for silver? So I'll also be covering off that question there. And as a bonus, I'm going to share with you what I think is my best strategy for using my existing holdings of gold and silver to acquire more holdings of gold and silver. So stick around and check it out. Okay, so having already decided that I wanted to move a percentage of my assets into precious metals, I'd already decided gold and silver, for historical reasons, were appropriate stores of value. I felt comfortable gold and silver would be the precious metals that I would look to buy into. The first question to me was, here today, building up a collection, where should I really focus? Should I be building up a gold holding or a silver holding or a bit of both? So in other words, should I be buying more gold or more silver or an even split? The first place I think I started to look, and I guess most people would, is what is the price of gold versus the price of silver. Now when I look at them at face value, I don't really have an idea whether that's a good price or not. I can't really tell you. I could do all sorts of analysis around cost of production. I could look at demand and supply. I could do lots of analysis, but at face value, I can't really tell you with any certainty whether I think gold is priced cheaply or expensively today, or whether silver is cheap or expensive today. So instead, I decided to approach it in a different way, and I'm going to share this with you by first going to my conclusion. My conclusion is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the price is for gold today, and it doesn't matter to me what the price of silver is today. And the reason why it doesn't matter is because I'm looking at what the purpose of buying gold and silver is for me. Now, this is a very personal situation, so don't consider this as any advice and recommendations for what you should do. This is more around me and my situation. You'd need to consult, with advisors or whatever for your own situation. But for me, what I'm really looking for in a holding of silver and gold is a way of protecting my wealth, protecting my asset base or a portion of it against, financial calamities like, the GFC that we had a few years ago really opened my eyes up to how fragile the modern banking or monetary system actually is. I mean, it's kind of spooky to think that we could easily find ourselves in that situation again, because obviously the root cause of that problem has never really been resolved. So from that perspective, I'm looking to acquire gold and silver as a way of diversifying my asset base and putting it into a form that has historically been a pretty predictable store of value. And what I mean by predictable is it's always going to be valued. It has for the last 2,000 or more years, probably going to be valued long after I'm 6 foot under. So from that reason, I'm looking at it providing me a bit of an insurance policy against the end of financial system as we know it. Now, coming from that perspective, I'm not looking for a short-term win. I therefore I'm actually hoping I never have to convert it back into dollars. I don't want a financial calamity. It's better that there isn't one for everyone involved. But in case there is, I'll at least be able to start again, and start again not from zero. I'll be able to start again from whatever value it happens to have in that kind of world scenario that we can't really predict. So in this situation, I really don't care what price I'm paying today in dollars, because I'm not really looking to convert back into dollars, hopefully ever. So if it ends up being this multi-year, multi-decade, even hopefully multi-generational pool of assets that just gets handed down, from generation to generation in my family, I don't think in some future time anyone's ever going to look back and go, geez, on this date in this year, you overpaid by $10 an ounce. I just don't think it's going to matter. So that's the reason why I'm saying it doesn't really matter to me from that perspective in this situation what price I'm paying for gold or silver today. So I have to look at it differently. So after researching a fair bit on the internet, I think I've come across an idea which I agree with, and it convinced me that this is the way that I should approach the analysis. I'm not too concerned about the dollar price of gold or the dollar price of silver, but I'm interested in the relationship between the gold price and the silver price. In other words, what's the ratio between gold and silver? How many ounces of silver could I buy with an ounce of gold, and vice versa? So the gold-silver ratio is the ratio that I think will help inform or determine where I prioritize my acquisitions today. So I wanted to look at the gold and silver ratio here with you, and you can see it spans a very long time frame, and it gives you some idea, at least, in the last few generations, how that ratio has fluctuated. Now, you can see there's been some times where gold has been, almost up to 100 times the price of silver. There's been times where silver has made a bit of a comeback. Now, I've also plotted on this ratio some significant events that occurred around the time frame between these peaks and troughs. So you can see marked up the events, significant events like the Second War or the Great Depression or the American Vietnam War, the time that the silver market was attempted to be cornered by the Hunt brothers. So a lot of historical events in here. I won't go into each one in detail, but they are things that you could research further to understand why it did have such an impact on gold and silver at the time. But basically, I think what this picture shows me is that sometimes gold runs away from silver, sometimes silver catches up a lot with gold. And if I look at what the overall average over the last 100 years, looks like it was, it gives me some kind of idea of where gold and silver is priced relative to each other today. And at face value, it kind of looks like, gold is relatively stronger than silver, at least in the historical terms of this time frame of this chart. And that would give me some indication that perhaps I want to be slightly biased towards acquiring silver today. I think that it's already quite, the pendulum's already swung quite a lot towards gold, and it would be, I think, making sense to have a bias towards acquiring silver over gold. Now, this second chart I want to look at. This here is the gold reserve holdings of all the central banks. Now, this chart's kind of telling. It shows sort of through this historical period that central banks have been acquiring gold and hoarding it. And something happened around the 60s. It started to reverse. They started to sell it off incrementally. And it really accelerated that by the 90s. You can just see that sharp acceleration in gold reserve holdings that the central banks were offloading. Now, the thing that's telling to me is that this multi-decadal policy of the world's central banks has been reversed. And it's been reversed since the GFC. So clearly the central banks know something about that GFC that they're not sharing with all of us, but it's enough that they have reversed their policy around the status of gold. And for that reason, I wouldn't ignore gold today. So even though gold versus silver is, 70 times more expensive, I still think you want to have some gold. So if I come back to my original questions, whether I should be buying gold or silver, the answer is both. I want a bit of both. I think I have a bit of a bias towards silver at the moment, but I would still be looking to also acquire gold for the reason that the central banks around the world are doing it, and if it's good enough for them, I think it's going to be good enough for me. Now, the price that I'm going to pay for gold and silver today, I don't care, for the reasons that I've elaborated on before. So now I wanted to come back to the bonus point that I wanted to talk about. And I guess it's something which an opportunity revealed to me as somebody who likes to do a bit of trading. If I go back to that gold and silver ratio chart, when I see a chart like that, I can see volatility in it, and that volatility to me presents an opportunity to profit from it. Now, I've already told you I'm not interested in converting the metal back into dollars, but I could convert my gold into silver. So in other words, ounces of gold converted into silver and converted from silver into gold. So if I look at it just in the time that I've been alive and as an adult to make decisions, there's been a few opportunities there if I had the holdings of gold and silver at the time that I could have made those transactions and have ended up with a greater holding of metal as a result of that. So I think it's a strategy that you can use if you're like me and you're looking to hold gold and silver for the long term. It's an opportunity where you can make some incremental gains in metal holdings using your existing holdings. And because you're looking at the long game here, you're looking at a long time frame. Even if you make the call wrong, you haven't picked the top, you haven't picked the bottom, the absolute top and absolute bottom. It doesn't matter because you're in it for the long term. Chances are it's going to come back there anyway. So you'll still have an opportunity, even if you've made a wrong call every now and again, to still correct it. So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know maybe you've got some other ideas, better ideas, but please feel free to share them in the comments below. And as always, hit subscribe and join us on our journey as we continue learning about gold and silver. Thanks very much.